Breaking news from the Eastern Front. For the first time since this war kicked off, Russia's relentless attack on Pokrovsk has been totally crushed. Ukrainian forces dealt a major blow that sent shockwaves through Moscow's military. January 4, 2026 will go down in history as the day Ukraine flipped the script in one of the bloodiest parts of this conflict. Before we dive into this jaw-dropping story, if you're rooting for Ukraine in their fight for freedom, smash that subscribe button and hit like, too. Every interaction helps this video reach more folks who support Ukraine's brave fight against Russian aggression. Your engagement literally saves lives by spreading the word. So, here's the scoop. On January 5th, the Ukrainian armed forces dropped a major report about the war, revealing some big news from January 4th, the 1411th day of this brutal conflict. Something wild just happened. The Pokrovsk direction, which has been the main hot spot for Russian attacks for months, suddenly isn't the most contested area anymore. Russian forces threw everything they had at Ukrainian positions, launching a jaw-dropping 129 combat engagements across different sectors. But here's the twist. Pokrovsk isn't the main target anymore. The Huliaipole direction has now become the hottest combat zone, surpassing Pokrovsk for the very first time with 65 Russian attacks compared to Pokrovsk's 54. Think about what this means. Russian commanders have been forced to dramatically shift their focus away from Pokrovsk because Ukrainian defenders have turned that sector into an absolute meat grinder for Putin's forces. The Russian military machine that's been hammering Pokrovsk since autumn has been stopped cold in its tracks. Ukrainian defenders repelled 54 separate Russian assaults around Pokrovsk. On January 4th, there was a fierce battle near Shakov, Nikanorovka, and other places like Mirnograd and Novopavlovka. They faced 54 attacks, each one sending dozens, sometimes hundreds, of Russian soldiers, tanks, and artillery against the Ukrainian defenses. But guess what? Every single one was pushed back. The bodies of Russian soldiers are piling up in the frozen fields around Pokrovsk, with their burning tanks lighting up the night, winter sky. But wait, there's more devastating news for Putin's war machine. Russian losses on January 4th were absolutely catastrophic. Ukraine's defenders eliminated 990 Russian personnel in a single day. That's nearly 1,000 fathers, sons, and brothers who will never return home because Putin decided to throw them into this genocidal meat grinder. But the carnage doesn't stop there. Ukrainian forces destroyed up to 200 pieces of Russian equipment, including 8 tanks, 2 armored personnel carriers, 29 artillery systems, to multiple launch rocket systems, 1 anti-aircraft system, 169 vehicles and fuel tanks, and 1 piece of special equipment. And here's the truly shocking statistic. Ukrainian forces shot down 700 for Russian drones in just 24 hours. Since February 24, 2022, Russia's total estimated combat losses have now exceeded an absolutely mind-boggling 1.1 million. Personnel. More than 1 million Russian soldiers killed, wounded, captured, or missing. The Russian military has lost 1,157 tanks, 23,857 armored fighting vehicles, 35,785 artillery systems, and over 100,000 drones. These aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. Each one represents Putin's catastrophic failure to achieve his objectives after nearly 1,411 days of brutal warfare. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The General Staff explicitly noted a gradual but significant shift in Russian strategic focus along the entire front line. Instead of continuing their obsessive suicidal assaults on Pokrovsk, Russian commanders are now desperately trying to make gains in the Huliaipole direction. Why? Because Pokrovsk has become an impenetrable fortress. Ukrainian forces have transformed this critical logistics hub into such a deadly killing zone that Russian generals have been forced to admit defeat and redirect their battered units elsewhere. National Guard Chief Alexander Pavinko recently revealed that Ukrainian units defending Pokrovsk are being significantly reinforced in anticipation of potential Russian counterattacks. Since autumn, Pokrovsk hasn't just been defended by regular armed forces units. Ukrainian intelligence, the National Guard, Special Operations Forces, and specialized UAV operators have all converged on this critical sector. The coordination between these elite units has created an integrated defense network that's proven virtually impossible for Russian forces to crack. Ukrainian defenders have also established crucial logistical corridors to Migrad, ensuring that troops defending Pokrovsk receive everything they need: ammo, food, medical supplies, reinforcements, and better weapons. This logistical skill has been super important for holding off the non-stop pressure from Russia. Meanwhile, Russian propaganda keeps making a fool of itself with ridiculous claims. They've been saying for months that cities like Kans have fallen, but guess what? Those cities are still firmly in Ukrainian hands. Russian forces are supposedly under pressure to take Kupiansk by February 2026, but it's not looking good for them. With their disastrous performance around Pokrovsk, that deadline is looking more like a fantasy every day. Key targets like Pokrovsk, Migrand, and Julia are still under Kiev's control, all thanks to the incredible bravery and smart tactics of the Ukrainian defenders. Putin's big push has turned into a tragic scene, with thousands of soldiers thrown at Ukrainian lines only to be taken out one by one. Victory in modern warfare isn't just about taking land. It's about crippling the enemy's ability to fight. That's exactly what Ukrainian defenders around Pokrovsk have done. They've turned what was supposed to be a key target for Putin into a deadly trap, where Russian soldiers are facing heavy losses without gaining anything. You've been tuned into J&J's Military Report, where we break down the latest in military strategy, global defense, and cutting-edge weaponry. Catch you next time.